Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to Bluebaggers Edge. And, well, the news is coming thick and fast out of Carlton in the early part of the off-season, with Jack Silvagni having had his exit meeting and confirming that he'll be following TDK out the door and departing the club as a free agent. He's been openly chatting, of course, with the likes of Collingwood and the Western Bulldogs in recent weeks, in season, mind you. So it would appear he'll be wearing one of their colours in 2026 and beyond. Now, let's have a quick look at the, firstly, before we chat about this, the article on the Carlton website, and as it says there, Silvagni informed the club that he wishes to take up his unrestricted free agency option with another club. Played 128 games across 10 seasons. Silvagni expressed his reason for making the decision and thanked the football club for the opportunity over the last decade, and this is the quote here. Whilst the decision was not an easy one to leave the football club, I felt the time was right to explore another opportunity. I want to say a huge thank you to everyone at the club for their support during my time there. I sincerely appreciate the opportunity this club has given me and my family. Nick Austin gave some comment. We made it really clear to Jack that we wanted him to remain a Carlton person, so there you go. The club was very keen to keep him. However, as an unrestricted free agent, Jack had the right to meet with a number of clubs, and as a result has made his decision to pursue other opportunities. That is the reality of our industry in regard to player movement. As we head into the upcoming trade, free agency and draft period, this affords us a number of options as we approach this time of year, and we will continue to make decisions that put the interest of the Carlton Football Club first and foremost. So there we go. That is the words from Jack himself. There's the graphic. Thank you, Jack Silvagni. Now, I don't know if I agree with that. Now, I've got a few words to say with this, and bear with me. Because for me, SOS leaving leaves a fairly sour taste in my mouth. And I know some have been highly critical of TDK, leaving for St Kilda, but in his case, he was being offered ridiculous sums of money as one of the highest paid players on such a lengthy deal. So I think even the most loyal would be swayed if they were offering $1 million more a season compared to what he's currently getting. And I think in terms of the lifespan of the contract, it ends up being a few million more across the lifespan of the 8-year deal that he has as at St Kilda. Now, obviously have to look at Gary Ablett, Gold Coast. Loyalty kind of goes out the window off the back of that. And I think in any industry, doesn't have to be in sport, in football, if you're being offered a ridiculous amount of money, probably rightfully, I think we can say with some conviction, more money than probably what he's worth. And what I spoke about in the previous video with regards to TDK leaving is with the reality of AFL at the moment and concussion ending so many careers prematurely, I think it makes a bit of sense for him to look after himself financially in that respect there. He's getting paid massive overs, so you'd be silly to look the other way. But, we're comparing the pair here, TDK and Jack. And when it comes to Jack, by all reports, he's being offered similar contracts by other clubs in terms of both monetary value and in length. So it would seem as though, he wants to leave Carlton out of almost a bit of a dislike for the club in some capacity. We don't know what it is exactly. He's turned his back on the history of 3 generations of the Silvagni name at the Carlton Football Club as well on top of that. Now, there is that assertion, sure, but as they say, no player is bigger than the football club. So let's just park that narrative for a second about the Silvagni name at the club. Because sure, every player is free to explore their options. But for me, it reeks of, a bloke who's turned their back on the club, who has stuck by him throughout his numerous injury issues across the years. And this hasn't been cropping up, a couple of seasons here or there. It's been across almost the entirety of his 10-year stint in the Navy Blue. And especially in recent seasons, did his ACL and, we managed him through that, helped him with his recovery, rehab. And now that he's worked his way back into the team and starts showing, some bit of form and, I'll loosely use the term continuity here in his game, only now he opts to up and leave. And I just don't like it. It just doesn't sit right with me. This is a bloke that has averaged 12 games per season across his 10 years in the Navy Blue and has never played more than 21 games in a given season. So I think it's generous of the club to even, offer him the reported 4 years at $700,000 per season. Yet for only a little bit more money, what's being reported from the Western Bulldogs and Collingwood, he wants to leave. So in context of that, it seems that loyalty doesn't even factor in when it probably should in his case compared to TDK, as I mentioned. And when we then pile the storyline of the Silvagni name on top of that, it leaves me feeling a little bit jaded and annoyed that he is virtually snubbing his nose at the club. The narrative that we have, perceived to have undervalued him, for him to then seek greener pastures and play his career elsewhere is absolutely ridiculous. Like, SOS even missed half of 2025 playing only 13 games. Sure, they were good, they were impactful, but 13 games. Again, a season riddled with injury, and we've offered him 4 years at $700,000 a year. In my eyes, that's overs. So for me, utter arrogance and entitlement that he has shown here is absolutely astounding. And I think really he's now burnt bridges with the club here. But of course, his father did that anyway in his dealings with Carlton after his falling out when he was list manager. If Jack was not getting games and was seeking an opportunity to, I guess have further game time elsewhere, I would be a little bit more forgiving and probably more understanding, but not here, not in this case. In my eyes, he is no better than an Aaron Hamill back in the day. And this sense of thinking that he is more, entitled than anyone else isn't really a trait that I want at my football club. Culturally, I don't want that toxic mindset eroding the culture around the playing group, because culture, team chemistry is such a massive part of AFL. And, that's what breeds success. You look at the best teams across the journey: Geelong, Richmond, Hawthorn, Brisbane, even if you want to date back to then. There's so many of those players there that are selfless. They play for each other and they stick around because they want to invest in building a successful environment. Hey, Sammy Walsh came out and spoke about it the other day. And, what Jack is doing here is the complete opposite to that. So these are direct quotes from Walsh here. Asked about his loyalty to Carlton, he was emphatic about his future. I love this club. I want to win here. I want to create habits with all of my teammates that I love playing with and to be the club that we want to be. That is where my mindset is at. And then he mentions, and this is the most emphatic quote from him: the biggest thing about staying is that I came here and have been here 7 years now, which is a long time. When you come into a team that has finished on the bottom of the ladder, the satisfaction you would get out of turning it into the place that you want to be. I want to be building this club into a winning team in the coming years, and that's where my mindset is. And then he speaks about, obviously, the influence of Paddy Cripps sticking around, knocking back mammoth rival offers to stick fat. And you look at that in context of what Jack's doing here, and geez, I'm happy that we've got Sammy Walsh in the club. We want blokes like that, leaders like that love the club, want to stick by us, and want to help contribute to turning this club around and having success. I don't know if you saw the video, but if not, go back and have a look. The video that the club released of Doherty announced his retirement to the playing group. He made actually a little bit of a gag there about Jack, saying that, he really appreciates his positivity, which is obviously a bit of a gag because everyone started laughing. So it seems as though he's quite a negative presence, and, just marrying things up, connecting dots and seeing what's happening now and the way that he's departing the Carlton Football Club that has looked after him, the Silvagni family across the journey. It's disappointing, and it kind of marries up and makes a bit more sense now. End of the day, we're a collective and no one player is bigger than the club. We have to reiterate that. Like, I know there's so many people out there that will be annoyed about this. I'm disappointed. But again, we've got to remind ourselves that no matter the history that a player has with a club, even if it's multi-generational, they are not bigger than the football club. Let us know how you feel about SOS leaving. Does it faze you? Does it, like me, leave you annoyed with a bit of a sour taste? Let us know down in the comment section below. Always keen to hear your thoughts, and especially with regards to this, because I think this will divide the supporter base. There'll be those out there maybe giving their blessing, but I would imagine a vast majority like myself would be pretty annoyed and disappointed in the way things have gone down. Who knows if any more information, any truth to the matter will come out in time, in years down the track. But it doesn't look good for Jack. It does not look good. But let us know, as I said, down in the comment section down below, because having said all that, for me, in closing, what I will say is TDK, I wish you all the very best and totally understand. If I was in your shoes, even as an avid blue bagger, I would find it hard to resist that sort of money. And you've got my blessing. And Jack, we'll happily open the door for you on the way out, but just make sure you've cleaned out your locker entirely, because anything you leave behind, you won't be allowed back in the club to retrieve it. Go Baggers.